Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode at America TV. My name is James, one of the e-guides here at America, and we welcome our audience members joining us online. We hope that you're doing well and staying safe. At America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center, and our mission is to provide young Indonesians to learn more about the United States. We have temporarily moved to a solely digital platform so that you guys could enjoy us from the comforts of your own home. In this episode, we'll be having NSLI-Y 2020 Reflection, Learning Bahasa Indonesia and Indonesian Culture Virtually. Stay tuned until the end of this program because we'll be giving a live shout out to whoever can answer this little icebreaker from us. I have here a question. True or false, Bahasa Indonesia has been sent into space? Other than that, don't forget to take a selfie and tag our @America's Instagram account. Without further ado, let me introduce everyone to today's moderator, Sena, Yes Alumni 2010 and host family to NSLI-Y Student 2018. Sena, take it away. The stage is yours.
Thank you, James. Selamat malam, teman-teman semuanya. Good evening. Selamat datang di acara virtual Amerika malam hari ini. Saya dengar nih malam hari ini ada banyak sekali audiens dari beberapa tempat. Seperti itu, saya mau menyapa dulu nih teman-teman dari SMA 1 Yogyakarta, ada juga dari SMA 3 Yogyakarta, dan juga dari SMA 8 Yogyakarta. Nah, saya yakin juga pasti banyak teman-teman dari berbagai tempat di seluruh Indonesia. So sit back and relax at the convenience of your home. Kita malam ini akan mendengarkan cerita pengalaman siswa-siswi dari Amerika Serikat yang belajar bahasa dan budaya Indonesia. Nah, mereka belajar budaya dan bahasa Indonesia itu melalui satu program yang namanya NSLI-Y, atau kita suka sebutnya NSLI-Y, seperti itu. Program ini itu program dari pemerintah Amerika Serikat dan berpartner dengan Yayasan Bina Antar Budaya atau AFS Indonesia dan juga Rumah Bahasa di Yogyakarta, seperti itu. Nah, malam ini saya tidak akan sendirian, saya akan berbincang-bincang sama siswa NSLI-Y 2020. Akan ada 2 orang yang sudah hadir malam hari ini, dan mereka ini sangat spesial programnya karena mereka di tengah pandemi seperti ini tetap semangat untuk mengikuti program ini secara virtual. Jadi nanti kita akan banyak ngobrol gimana sih pengalamannya belajar bahasa dan budaya Indonesia secara virtual. Nah, kita juga akan ngobrol sama salah satu alumni dari NSLI-Y juga, alumni di tahun sebelumnya, tahun 2019, yang punya kesempatan untuk datang langsung ke Indonesia, belajar bahasa dan budaya Indonesia langsung di sini. Nah, kita akan ngobrol-ngobrol tentang pengalaman mereka, apa yang mereka pelajari, dan lain sebagainya. Teman-teman juga bisa bertanya throughout the sessions. Teman-teman bisa bertanya, just comment on the section below. Nanti tim dari Amerika akan menyampaikan pertanyaannya dan aku akan bacain pertanyaannya untuk teman-teman semua. So, before the session starts, there will be an opening remarks from Ibu Naida. Ibu Naida is the cultural attaché of US Embassy Jakarta. So let's hear the opening remarks from Ibu Naida.
Selamat malam. Welcome and thank you for joining us virtually in America this evening and this morning. We're very happy to be celebrating the National Security Language Initiative for Young People, which is all about the future of the strategic partnership between Indonesia and the United States. We are committed to increasing educational and cultural exchanges with Indonesia because we know that both our countries are stronger when people share their ideas and experiences. Exchange programs look different this year. Students have only traveled virtually, and they haven't had the chance to try tempeh or rendang, but they have learned about Indonesian language and culture and met many new friends and teachers over the past few weeks. That this program could still be a success at this time is a credit to our partners at Yayasan Bina Antar Budaya, or AFS Indonesia, so Kak Nina Nasution and her team working in Jakarta to support students in the United States and halfway around the world. Thank you. A special thank you to the alumni with us today. I know that the students in the audience will benefit greatly from your insights and experiences. And finally, congratulations to the 2020 NSLI students. Despite all the challenges of this year, you have made this program a success. Welcome to the U.S. Exchange Alumni family. Keluarga Besar Alumni IS. We hope you will stay in touch, as you will always be welcome here. Thank you again to everyone taking part in this discussion today as we work to build a brighter future together. Welcome again and thank you.
Alright, that was an opening remarks from Ibu Naida. Ngomong-ngomong teman-teman, tahun ini secara virtual program NSLI-Y 2020 ini menghadirkan 15 pemuda-pemudi dari Amerika Serikat untuk belajar bahasa dan budaya Indonesia secara virtual. Nah, tadi juga sudah disebutkan oleh Ibu Naida bahwa program ini itu dijalankan di Indonesia oleh satu yayasan yang bernama Yayasan Bina Antar Budaya atau biasanya kita juga suka dengar sebagai AFS Indonesia. Nah, kita akan mendengarkan juga kata sambutan atau opening remarks dari Executive Director of Yayasan Bina Antar Budaya, Kak Nina Nasution. So, Kak Nina Nasution, you have the time and place.
Terima kasih Kak Sena. Selamat malam Indonesia and good morning to you in the United States of America. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Time sure does fly ya. I still remember when we first met six weeks ago when we welcome you virtually to Indonesia via Zoom. And now it's about time for you to leave us again virtually. Ya, semoga selama 6 minggu ini sudah banyak yang dipelajari oleh adik-adik semua. And we hope what you learn during the program would interest you even more to visit us, to visit Indonesia. Di sini ada siswa-siswa dari beberapa SMA di Yogyakarta. Actually, they would be your friends because you were supposed to be hosted in Yogyakarta. Richard, you wish you were there, yeah? Have you been there, Richard? Yeah. So you have learned about the culture and the language of Indonesia. What did you like most about membatik atau masak bakwan jagung ya? Yeah. So hopefully things will be better soon, so you can travel here. Because I am sure also the teachers at Wisma Bahasa would really love to see you in person. They would be more than happy to take you to Malioboro for you to be able to bargain in Bahasa. Ya, sekali lagi kami di Bina Antar Budaya sangat senang mendapat kesempatan untuk bekerja sama dengan Kedutaan Besar Amerika di Jakarta dan juga dengan Wisma Bahasa untuk melakukan program NSLI-Y 2020 ini. Semoga kedepannya sama seperti yang di 2 program sebelumnya, kita akan bisa melakukannya secara in person lagi, tidak virtual ya. Tapi we do hope that you will be able to come to Indonesia, Will and Nicholas ya. Sekali lagi selamat telah sukses menyelesaikan program ini and we wish you all the best. Thank you.
Oke, itu tadi kata sambutan dari Kak Nina. Jadi ternyata 2 siswa NSLI 2020 ini sudah belajar bahasa Indonesia selama 6 minggu ya, gitu. Dan secara virtual gitu. Jadi luar biasa banget. Kita nanti akan bisa mendengar bagaimana mereka bertransformasi gitu, belajar bahasa dan juga belajar budaya Indonesia seperti itu secara virtual karena pasti pengalamannya menarik banget gitu. Biasanya kan kita tahu exchange program itu kan datang gitu ya ke tempat ke daerahnya langsung, dive in ke dalam society, community kayak gitu. Nah, tapi mereka dengan situasi pandemi ini mereka belum berkesempatan untuk melakukan itu, tapi harapannya nanti suatu saat bisa ke Indonesia dan belajar budaya dan bahasa Indonesia secara lebih dalam gitu di sini. Tapi nanti kita akan lihat gimana mereka udah bisa belum ya ngomong bahasa Indonesia dari 6 minggu belakang ini kayak gitu. Nah, kita coba cek kali ya, kita coba cek apakah mereka udah mulai bisa belajar bahasa atau udah mulai bisa ngomong pakai bahasa Indonesia. Sekaligus saya akan memperkenalkan masing-masing speakers pada malam hari ini. Yang pertama ada Willa. Halo Willa. Halo. Uh,
Halo,
Oke, we can hear your voice. Willa, uh, aku dengar saat ini di sana masih jam 4 pagi ya?
permisi?
What time is it there in Arizona?
Uh, 4 pagi.
4 pagi, wow, jam 4 pagi udah standby gitu untuk sharing tentang belajar bahasa dan budaya Indonesia ke kita semuanya. So, Willa boleh memperkenalkan diri kepada kita semuanya.
Ya,
Can you
saya
introduce your name and what do you do?
halo, nama saya Willa Kleiner. Saya berasal dari Amerika. Saya tinggal di Tucson, di negara bagian Arizona. Saya siswa SMA dan saya punya satu lebih tahun di sekolah SMA. Terima kasih.
Oke, wow, lancar bahasa Indonesia ya. Ternyata program 6 minggu belajar bahasa Indonesia bisa membuat Willa memperkenalkan diri dalam bahasa Indonesia dengan lancar. Keren, terima kasih Willa. Nah,
Sama-sama.
berikutnya speakers yang kedua ini juga sama, siswa tahun 2020, NSLI-Y tahun 2020, ada Nicholas Tidwell. Halo Nicholas.
Halo,
Halo Nicholas, kalau di rumah Nicholas sekarang jam berapa?
jam 6:12 pagi.
Jam 6 pagi, jam 6 lebih 12
Ya,
menit pagi. Oke, jadi tepat 12 jam perbedaan jamnya dengan, di Jakarta, saya di Jakarta. Wow, luar biasa. Boleh, Nicholas sekarang memperkenalkan diri.
oke. Halo, nama saya Nicholas Alexander Isa Aktidwell, tapi panggil saya atau Nicholas. Saya berasal dari California dan saya tinggal di Sacramento. Umur saya 17 tahun. Hobi saya belajar bahasa, geografi, dan ilmu hewan, eh, lari, dan bermain video game. Ya,
Oke, wow, Nicholas hobi belajar, you like to study ya?
ya,
And also, apa tadi, berlari ya? Is it running?
ya,
Do you like running?
berlari.
Oke.
Ya.
Oke, cool. Jadi hobinya banyak termasuk main video games, luar biasa. Nah, malam hari ini, Willa dan Nicholas nanti akan, bercerita tentang pengalamannya mereka belajar, bahasa dan budaya Indonesia secara virtual, tapi kita masih ada satu, speaker lagi, eee, dia ini alumni dari NSLI-Y tahun 2019. Jadi sudah tahun lalu itu, belajar melalui NSLI-Y 2019 dan berkesempatan untuk hadir secara langsung ke Indonesia. Nah, oke, kita akan kenalan langsung ke Richard. Halo Richard.
Halo,
Oke Richard, tadi sama pertanyaannya. Di sana jam berapa sekarang Richard?
saat ini jam 6 pagi.
Jam 6 pagi. Oke, jadi satu, time zone dengan Nicholas ya?
Ya,
Sama-sama
betul.
jam 6 pagi. Oke, Richard sekarang, what is your routine? Apa kesibukan kamu saat ini?
Eee eee, maaf, eee, saya tidak bisa mendengar.
Oh, oke. Yeah, you can introduce yourself. Can you
Oh,
introduce yourself to us? Yeah.
eee eee, m ah, maaf. Nama
It's
saya
okay.
Richard Hasegawa, saya dari, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Saat ini saya mahasiswa tingkat 2 di Universitas California, Berkeley, di mana saya belajar, biologi dan geografi. Saya suka penangkapan ikan dan acara di luar.
Oke, jadi sekarang sudah berkuliah, you're now studying in college, in university, ya?
Betul.
Oke. Nah, teman-teman, ini adalah 3 speakers kita pada malam hari ini. Nanti selanjutnya mereka akan bercerita pengalaman mereka belajar bahasa dan budaya Indonesia. Nah, selama mereka bercerita, teman-teman bisa sekali loh, bertanya kepada mereka bertiga melalui social media @Amerika. Dari, Instagram bisa, dari Facebook, dari YouTube. Jadi teman-teman, silakan, komen di, section komennya di bawah, kayak gitu. Nanti kita akan melakukan sesi Q&A di akhir, kayak gitu. Oke, nah sekarang kita nggak sabar nih pastinya mau dengerin ceritanya, masing-masing dari mereka pengalamannya belajar bahasa Indonesia. So, yang pertama, eee oh iya, lupa tadi. Jangan lupa nanti ketika bertanya, sebutin namanya siapa dan dari mana gitu. Jadi nanti saya bisa sebutin, kayak gitu ya. Nah, sambil teman-teman bertanya, kita akan mendengarkan pengalaman pertama dari Willa Kleiner. So, Willa, you can share your story to us about your experience.
Terima kasih. Apa sebaiknya saya bicara bahasa Indonesia atau bahasa Inggris?
Boleh campur-campur, tidak apa-apa.
Terima kasih. So, I wanted to participate in NSLI-Y because saya suka belajar tentang budaya dan bahasa dan saya suka melihat how culture that changes the physical world and how architecture and language and food and like visible culture, like how people act, is impacted by budaya mereka. Dan Indonesia punya uh, banyak budaya di dari Papua dan Sumatera dan ya ada banyak bahasa di Indonesia and I am very interested in the way that Indonesian is the language that unites everyone. I think that it's amazing to see so much diversity in one country, and I think that that, in a way, is similar to America, and I'm excited to learn about the ways in which America and Indonesia are similar and different. And uh, yeah, so that is why I did NISLI. And when when because of the pandemic, we could not pergi ke Indonesia, saya sedih. Tapi I was very curious um, to learn online because that is a new experience for me. So,
Okay. I heard you have some presentation that you want to share to us.
yeah.
Okay, you can start your presentation.
Terima kasih. So, in order to learn about culture from home, because we could not be able to see to eat Indomie atau bakwan jagung in person, we learned how to make it from home, and so here is batik saya, and it took me um, hmm, enam jam to complete it, which and I am so so saya terkesan by the professionals, ahli. Dan saya memasak tumis buncis wortel, tapi I did not translate correctly and used different beans. But itu enak. Dan saya juga memasak bakwan jagung dengan ibu saya. Dan it is similar to latkes, which are a food from my culture, and well, fried food, makanan goreng, enak. Also, in order to learn about budaya, saya bertemu dengan siswa dari Indonesia. Ya, dan dia bicara saya sebaiknya membeli mie goreng, Indomie. Tapi toko bahan makanan di Arizona tidak punya Indomie. Tapi I found mie sedap dan it is so delicious, and I am going to be eating it for the rest of my life. I also tried to find buah di Indonesia, dan saya beli longan, enak juga. I thought that it would be a lot harder to learn about culture from online, but I think that like everyone did such a good job figuring out how to make this curriculum online, and so I think I've learned a lot about Indonesian foods and activities, and I hope that I will be able to go to Indonesia soon. Saya juga belajar bahasa Indonesia, dan ibu saya thought that it would be very, very difficult to learn virtually, and I was a little bit worried that it would take up like time over my summer, but I have saya pernah suka sekali kelas saya, dan I am sad that we will be finishing soon. I am surprised, very surprised at how much of the language we've all learned in just 1 month. Saya bisa bicara bahasa Spanyol juga, tapi selama 3 tahun, it took me a very long time to learn, but at least I have begun in Indonesian, and it's very, very fun. I think that it was very interesting to learn how different the structure is from American and from English. And how so much can be said. And yeah, our lessons were, we met untuk 2 jam every every night except Saturday for us, uh, hari Minggu untuk kalian di Indonesia. Dan it was really fun to to learn with classmates and to discuss with teachers and also to discuss with my peer leader, the student who explains a lot of culture and language to me. I'm very grateful for her because I asked a lot of questions and she was willing to answer all of them. Yeah, terima kasih Kalista. Dan
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
I yeah, I am very excited to continue learning about budaya dan bahasa Indonesia. Dan saya akan apply minggu depan. Terima kasih.
iya, sama-sama Willa. Wow, you learn so many things about Indonesia in just a short time period. That is
Yeah,
great. You taste a lot of food, yeah, and you cook
yeah.
Indonesian food. That is great. Even though the recipe or you put different ingredients, right?
Yeah,
But it still tastes good, yeah.
yeah, enak
Oke.
sekali.
Enak sekali, wow luar biasa. Tadi kita lihat, Willa, belajar dari mulai buah, apa namanya, mencoba mie instan ya, instant noodle, kemudian juga belajar membatik, luar biasa. Nah, saya akan tanya lebih jauh ke Willa, I will, dig more, about your experience later, Willa, and now we will listen to the story of Nicholas. So Nicholas, please share your stories of learning bahasa and budaya Indonesia.
Okay. Uh, so should I share screen now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay. So, halo semua. Selamat sore di Indonesia dan selamat pagi di Amerika. Apa kabar? So, as I said before, nama saya Nick atau Nicholas. Uh, Sekarang di sini masih tidak ada matahari karena hampir jam setengah 5 pagi. Sangat dini sekali ya. Itu tapi tidak apa-apa, saya masih mau berpresentasi. So, sekarang saya bicara tentang one of my hobbies. Hobi itu belajar bahasa. Saya suka sekali hobi itu ya. Belajar bahasa seperti mengerjakan puzzle atau pattern recognition. Saya sedang belajar bahasa Jepang, bahasa Filipina, dan bahasa Indonesia. Saya belajar bahasa Jepang selama 3 tahun di SMA saya. Saya mulai belajar bahasa Filipina dan bahasa Indonesia musim panas ini. Guru bahasa Jepang adalah sudah guru bahasa Inggris di Jepang. Saya mulai belajar bahasa Filipina karena ibu saya orang Filipina. Dia bisa bicara bahasa Filipina dan lahir di Filipina. Saya mulai belajar bahasa Indonesia karena bahasa itu adalah bahasa Austronesia seperti bahasa Filipina. Karena itu saya bisa membandingkan kedua bahasa-bahasanya dan it connects me to my Filipino culture a little bit as well. A fun experience learning Bahasa Indonesia dan Bahasa Filipina is when, after class, my mother and I would compare words I learned between languages so that we could find similar words, such as kambing, sayang, balik, or lain-lain. So, foto ini adalah foto keluarga saya di Lincoln Memorial di Washington di District of Columbia. Di keluarga saya ada 3 orang, ibu saya, adik perempuan saya, dan saya. Saya tidak punya bapak, dia sudah meninggal tahun lalu. Like I said before, ibu saya berasal dari Filipina, tapi adik perempuan dan saya lahir di Amerika. Ibu saya mengejar bahasa Filipina, saya, tapi ketika belajar bahasa Indonesia, saya belajar sangat sedikit bahasa Filipina. So, sekarang saya berbicara tentang pengalaman saya belajar bahasa Indonesia. So, here, makanan pertama, saya memasak rendang daging sapi. Saya menerima resep dari peer leader saya, nama dia Kak Iqbal Fadilah. Dia merekomendasikan makanan itu. Ibu saya, adik perempuan saya, dan saya suka sekali masakan ini. Ibu saya dan saya suka rasa pedas sekali dan rasa manis. Adik perempuan saya tidak suka rasa pedas sekali, tapi masih suka rendang daging sapi itu. Memasak itu selama 6 jam, itu sabatannya. Ngomong-ngomong, saya tahu biasanya beef rendang tidak pakai sambal, tapi keluarga saya adalah keluarga Filipina. Because of that, I thought they would more like more sauce because it's common to eat everything with the sauce in the Philippines. So I made it so that the beef rendang was not completely dry after cooking, so it would suit the palates of my family members better. All right, so oop, oops. Okay, so now is the kelas budaya memasak. So di rumah saya memasak bakwan jagung dan tumis buncis wortel. Ibu saya dan saya pikir bakwan jagung yang lebih enak dari tumis buncis wortel. But we did not eat the tumis buncis wortel pakai like enough other foods. So the spiciness of that plus the sweetness from the kecap manis kind of like overwhelmed us. But I think still it was very good. It just needed more like sides, yeah. But the pakwan jagung was very naksakali. So my mama, she was like, "Oh, you should give that to your pacar perempuan." So ya, dia sudah mengatakan itu enak juga ya. Okay, so di sebelah kiri ada foto batik ibu saya. Dia sudah membeli kedua batiknya di Pulau Mindanao di Filipina. Ketika membeli, dia bekerja sebagai resepsionis hotel. Itu panggil malong. Malong adalah pakaian tradisional di Filipinas, terutama di Pulau Mindanao. Di kanan foto batik ibu saya ada foto batik saya. Tentu saja batik ibu saya yang lebih indah batik saya. Saya terbelajar tentang proses membatik. Kelas budaya untuk NSLI-Y sangat bagus mengejarkan budaya Indonesia meskipun kami harus belajar online. They were very enriching with knowledge on Indonesian culture, and despite the challenge of doing the classes on our own, I still appreciated them very much. Okay, so di sini saya bicara tentang kesamaan dan perbedaan di antara budaya Indonesia dan budaya Amerika Serikat. So first, saya ada banyak perbedaan karena geografis, penjajahan, dan lain-lain. So there's lots of diversity in Indonesia and America because of many geographical or colonial factors. It's like geographically in Indonesia, people were separated by things such as gunung, laut, dan hutan, dan lain-lain. And because of this, people were separated for very long times, and different ethnicities and languages developed. And like in America, with things such as gunung, jar besar, and sungai, um, people were separated for a very long time. New languages didn't develop, but there's many dialects of English in America, and many cultural differences as well. Another similar thing is the abjad. We both use Latin alphabets, so that made it a bit easier to learn, a lot easier to learn actually the Indonesian. I know because I learned Japanese. That's very so many different characters you need to learn, and Indonesian is a bit easier than that. Batas-batas nasional dan budaya dipengaruhi oleh penjajahan Eropa um, di Indonesia. Um, Boundaries and culture were shaped a bit by Belanda, while in America, it's usually described as like a nation of immigrants. So people in America, I think it's like 98 dan 3% um, orang-orang are from or descended from Europe. Yeah, and then struktur kalimat dasar yang sama the both languages. So that makes it a lot easier to build sentences when I'm still learning the language because in most cases, except for something like nouns, you place the words the same way you would in English. And then differences. There's menghormati perbedaan, respect for diversity, menghormati senioritas, rasa, and then gaya komunikasi. So in America, there's not, I guess you could say, there's not as much respect for diversity or seniority as there is in Indonesia. Especially seniority, it's not. It's more normal to uh, respect more the. I guess like in America, it's just there's not words in the language. It's not necessarily normal to call your elders by um, different honorifics, or it's a lot more passable to not to disrespect them or to express yourself more um, emotionally. So like that's the gaya komunikasi, and also in America, there's not as much rasa pedas. So food is nowhere near as spicy as in Indonesia, but I do like spicy food, so that helps for when I want to go to Indonesia in the future. Yeah. Okay. So last, bagaimana belajar bahasa Indonesia dan budaya Indonesia? So, despite learning online, kami masih belajar banyak struktur, kosakata, dan budaya. Saya kecewa untuk kami harus belajar online, tapi masih menyenangkan dan belajar banyak hal. NSLI-Y VSI dan AFS USA VSI adalah program sangat baik sekali. Saya diajar oleh guru-guru hebat. Selain itu, saya punya peer leader hebat. Nama dia Kak Iqbal Fadilah, as I said earlier. Dia yang mengajar saya hal seperti penjajahan Indonesia dan dia sudah membantu saya meningkatkan bahasa Indonesia saya. So this 6 week experience has excited me for the possibility of like traveling to Indonesia in the future a lot and furthering my studies in Bahasa Indonesia, yeah. It's bolstered my language learning abilities a lot, which I like because it's one of my favorite like hobbies or pastimes in this past couple years. And it's also helped me bridge the gap a little bit between um, myself and my Filipino culture, my Filipino side. So, terima kasih banyak Bu Putri, Bu Nina, Bu Roro, Bu Vina, Pak Andi, Kak Iqbal, dan lain-lain untuk making this program so great. Yeah. Also, thank you my peers for also making this a great program for everyone. Terima kasih. Sampai jumpa. Itu saja.
Wow, oke. Jadi ternyata tadi kalau kita lihat if I look or and listen to your story and as well as Willa's story, actually both of you really interested in learning bahasa. I mean language in general. But then both of you choose Bahasa Indonesia. I would dig more about that later. And sekarang teman-teman kita akan lihat. So Willa and Nicholas is actually this year students and they learn Bahasa Indonesia virtually. And now we have Richard. Richard went to Indonesia to learn Bahasa and Budaya Indonesia last year. So let's hear from Richard. How was your experience in Indonesia?
Bagus sekali. Saya suka sekali Indonesia. Semua budaya di sana dan saya tidak bisa jelajahi semua negeri, tapi saya suka sekali Jakarta dan saya mau kembali.
Oke. Oke, wow, bahasa Indonesia Richard masih bagus ya. Even though it's already a year past.
Iya,
By the way,
betul.
Richard, mhm, yeah,
Saat
do
ini
you have mhm.
saya sedikit kurang latihan, jadi bahasa Indonesia tidak bagus jadi.
It's still okay and I think Willa and Nicholas can be more motivated, to maintain their bahasa because they see you, Richard. Hopefully like that. So okay, Richard, I think I heard you also have a presentation, stories that you want to share.
Ya, betul.
Go ahead.
Saya akan lakukan screen share.
Ya.
Oke, halo semua, sekali lagi, nama saya Richard Hasegawa, saya dari Tulsa, Oklahoma. Sekarang saya mahasiswa di Universitas California, Berkeley, di mana saya belajar biologi dan geografi. Pada tahun 2019, saya peserta program NSLI-Y ke Jakarta. Awalnya, saya mau belajar bahasa Indonesia karena sudah lama tertarik dengan linguistik dan biologi. Keragaman bahasa, budaya, dan binatang di Indonesia menjadikannya salah satu tujuan teratas yang ingin kunjungi. Minat saya dalam budaya dan sejarah Indonesia ditingkatkan kelas sejarah Asia saya di SMA, di mana saya fokus pada kolonialisme Belanda dan kemerdekaan Indonesia. Berharap untuk meningkatkan pengetahuan saya tentang Indonesia, saya mendaftar ke program NSLI-Y tahun lalu. Saya sangat bersemangat mendengar saya diterima di program dan mulai belajar bahasa Indonesia. Di tahap awal ini, saya terkejut oleh kemudahan bahasa Indonesia, bahkan untuk seseorang tanpa pengalaman tata bahasa dan kosakatanya. Saya segera mengetahui bahwa kemudahan ini disengaja untuk em, untuk menyatukan bangsa Indonesia sebagai bahasa nasional. Um, uh, ini awal tema yang berulang dalam budaya dan sejarah Indonesia, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. Sesudah tiba di Jakarta, hal pertama yang sadari adalah lembabnya. Namun, sesudah itu, hal berikutnya yang sadari adalah kebaikan rakyatnya. Setiap orang yang saya temui sangat tertarik mendengar tentang budaya Amerika Serikat. Keluarga angkat saya mulai memperkenalkan saya ke kehidupan Jakarta. Mereka ingin saya melihat semua yang bisa di Jakarta, termasuk mall, pernikahan pasar terbuka, dan sinetron Benih Nangka Berbuat Cinta. Selain itu, mereka ingin memastikan bahwa saya dapat mencoba setiap masakan, buah, dan resep dapat ditemukan di kota, termasuk martabak manis. Meskipun saya hanya jelajahi sepotong kecil di Indonesia, saya bisa merasakan masakan dari seluruh negara. Kami mulai kelas sehari-hari di ILF, di mana guru-gurunya segera mulai mengajarkan kecakapan yang dibutuhkan untuk berkomunikasi dalam bahasa Indonesia. Setiap guru menggunakan gaya mengajar unik yang membantu membangun kemampuan kami dalam membaca, menulis, mendengarkan tata bahasa dan budaya Indonesia. Melalui uh, latihan interaktif dan PR, kami dapat menciptakan fondasi dalam bahasa Indonesia yang membuatkan lebih mudah untuk menambah pengetahuan baru. Selain kelas, ada sejumlah kegiatan budaya yang kami lakukan di ILF yang membantu memperdalam uh, pemahaman kami tentang identitas nasional Indonesia. Bagi saya, salah satu cara yang paling mengejutkan di mana kami belajar sejarah dan budaya Indonesia adalah diskusi tentang Hari Kemerdekaan Amerika Serikat pada tanggal 4 Juli. Dengan membandingkan sejarah dan adat Hari Kemerdekaan di Amerika dan Indonesia, ini memberikan wawasan tentang identitas nasional Indonesia, serta lebih banyak refleksi pada nilai-nilai dan identitas nasional kami sendiri. Salah satu pengalaman di ILF favorit saya adalah bacaan cerita rakyat Sunda Sang Kuryang menjelang akhir 6 minggu kami di Jakarta. Sangat memuaskan menggunakan pengetahuan yang saya peroleh selama beberapa minggu sebelumnya untuk belajar mitologi lokal dan menyadari sejauh mana kemampuan bahasa saya berkembang dalam waktu yang tidak lama. Tanda lain kemajuan saya dalam bahasa Indonesia adalah meningkat kemampuan saya untuk menjelajahi kota. Sesudah beberapa minggu, saya dapat menemukan jalan di sekitar transportasi umum Jakarta, dan saya kagum bisa berbicara dengan sopir-sopir taksi yang saya temui di perjalanan saya melintasi kota. Pada akhir waktu kami di Jakarta, saya merasa nyaman menemukan jalan melintasi kota dan terlibat dalam percakapan. Selama tinggal di Jakarta, kami melakukan beberapa perjalanan keliling kota. Kami belajar cara bermain angklung, membaca dan bermain bersama anak-anak di lembaga Rumah Langit, dan belajar cara menawar di pasar buah lokal. Masing-masing memberikan wawasan unik tentang budaya Indonesia dan kehidupan sehari-hari. Namun, mungkin hasil yang paling penting adalah paparan bahasa dan pengalaman berbicara dengan orang-orang di sekitar Jakarta dan mendengar tentang kehidupan mereka. Tamasya yang paling unik adalah akhir minggu dihabiskan di Kepulauan Seribu. Sesudah tinggal di Jabodetabek selama beberapa minggu, adalah perubahan menarik dapat bersepeda seberang seluruh Pulau Tidung dalam waktu setengah jam dan membandingkan kehidupan di jarak yang begitu dekat dari Jakarta. Di Pulau Tidung, kami dapat berbicara dengan pelajar SMA tentang pengalaman mereka di pulaunya dan melihat beberapa upaya konservasi yang terjadi untuk melindungi hutan bakau, terumbu karang, dan penyu di Kepulauan Seribu. Sebelum pulang ke Amerika Serikat, saya merasa saya telah sangat meningkatkan pengetahuan saya tentang bahasa dan budaya Indonesia. 6 minggu tinggal di negeri melintas dengan sangat cepat, tetapi setiap menit dipenuhi pengalaman khusus dan kenangan indah. Saya mau mengucapkan terima kasih kepada NSLI-Y, AFS, IILF, Bina Antar Budaya, dan keluarga angkat saya atas semua pengalaman ini. Saya berharap segera dapat kembali ke Indonesia dan melihat lebih banyak di negara yang luar biasa ini. Terima kasih banyak.
Wow, terima kasih juga, Richard. Luar biasa ceritanya tadi, banyak yang kamu lakukan ya, dengan host family, bahkan learning about the mythology, local mythology, that is a nice experience.
Ya, betul.
And kalau misalnya tadi aku lihat, kalau tadi saya lihat, both, batch, Nicholas and Willa, and also Richard have have different experience, but actually still have the same point of learning about Indonesian culture. Seperti itu. Nah, I want to ask more to Willa and Nicholas first, maybe, because you guys learn bahasa and budaya Indonesia virtually. When the first time you know that it's going to be virtual, do you have any concerns or maybe hopes or expectations about the program, and how far will you learn bahasa and all that? Maybe Willa or Nicholas want to ask first? Want to answer first?
I'll answer first.
Yeah. Okay, Nicholas.
Yeah. Okay. So, when I learned that it would be virtual, um, it was a couple weeks after the pandemic started.
Mm-hmm.
So I was already like expecting it and had already like conditioned myself to, well, I was already kind of like ready to accept that we'd be learning a lot less than what we would get if we went to Indonesia. And that's kind of a given since we're not like constantly um, in Indonesian culture, we're not constantly speaking Indonesian. I'm really only like speaking it for 2 hours a day to other people. And that's just not as good of learning as normal. So when I learned, it was it was a huge letdown, but I was ready to accept that if I wanted to learn more than what I was expecting, I'd have to put in a lot more work than what would be expected of me on an online program. So that's what I tried to do. Um, I think we've learned a lot from the online program, and it's been put together very well. Obviously, it's not as good as actually going there, but I think for the virtual students this year, it's kind of like a good jumping off point for learning more Bahasa Indonesia dan budaya Indonesia, so that in the future, so, so like I am planning to go maybe an exchange or for another study abroad program in Indonesia when I go to university 2 years from now, 2 or 3 years from now. Yeah. So it's a good way to start learning since we have a good, really, really good base from NSLI-Y. And that's what I expected. And it's what I've got. And so I'm very happy with it.
Wow, it's good to hear. And I was so sorry. I'm so sorry you had this letdown, like stage. But then, you can see the positive side of learning online. And yes, I do also hope that you will come to Indonesia eventually and explore more about Indonesia. How about you, Willa? Do you also feel the same thing at the first time?
Yeah, I feel pretty similar. Yeah, I was also very sad when I found out that it wouldn't be in Indonesia, although I was expecting it because of the pandemic. Um, and I was concerned that like I wouldn't be able to um saya suka sekali makanan, and I was sad that I wouldn't be able to eat Indonesian food or see like Borobudur, but or the Sultan's Palace. But I think the program did such a good job of showing that to us, showing batik and Malioboro, and like giving us folk tales. Like that's something I never would have expected, and it's been an awesome part of the program to learn like more culture and more like stories. And so yeah, well, it's disappointing to not be able to stay with a host family or go to school. Um I think that the online program has done an incredible job. I'm I'm surprised at the amount of Indonesian I've learned. Um and yeah, I think that it is a good like jumping off point, like you said, Nick. And I think that it will probably when if I had done Indonesia Bahasa Indonesia in person, I would have returned to America and been so tired that I wouldn't have spoken Indonesian for months. But now I think that I'm going to continue learning Bahasa Indonesia, and I have motivation for next year. And I think it was a really good way to learn, and I would recommend it.
Wow, okay. So, so online learning is actually a starting point ya untuk Willa and Nicholas to learn more about Bahasa Indonesia. That's a great way to see this program. Um, Apa namanya, tadi juga Willa say that you love to eat, suka banget makan, but you not only taste the food, but you cook the food, right? Through the program. How do you like it to cook? Like a lot of not only taste it, but also cook the food and taste it yourself.
Yeah, I've because of the pandemic, I've begun cooking more,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not as good a cook as my mom,
Okay.
but uh, yeah, I enjoy memasak, dan uh, saya akan memasak banyak uh, makanan makanan Indonesia dan other foods.
Okay. Nah, maybe the difference as well when in learning virtually, and like Richard, you went to Jakarta. Maybe Willa and Nicholas can share directly about what you learned to your family or your significant others, right? Like Nicholas, after learning Bahasa Indonesia, you talk with your mom and learn a little bit more about Filipinos and also Bahasa. How about Willa? Do you share your learnings with your family at home as well?
Uh, ya, saya tidak punya papa, tetapi ibu saya, um, dia uh, hanya bisa bicara bahasa Spanyol dan bahasa Inggris. Um, but she was very excited to that I'm learning, and hmm, papa teman saya um, bi- bicara bicara um, bahasa Melayu,
Okay.
dan kami bisa bicara sedikit. That's so
Okay.
pretty exciting.
Okay, so I see. So you actually share your learning outcomes with people around you, yeah, Willa and also Nicholas. Okay, before I'm going to Richard, I want also to know more about the culture shock. I think Richard might later share about the culture shock experience at first time you arrived in Indonesia. How about Willa and Nicholas? When you start to speak or talking with, I don't know, the peer leader or maybe a guru bahasa, do you find any culture shock?
I didn't really find any because like the peer leaders and the teachers, they are very accommodating. But also I guess like because we are doing virtual,
Mhm.
we're obviously not experiencing as much culture. So the only aspect of Indonesian culture I could imagine would produce culture shock for Americans over virtual. It's like um, either them speaking fast, which is one thing, but also I guess one, the change in the way of communication, like in Indonesia, especially Java, it's a lot more indirect than America. Yeah. So and also the way you show respect for elders or anyone that is senior to you. Um, but that wasn't very shocking to me because of my family. I'm already like kind of used to that attitude because the way that in the Philippines it's not as visible the respect for elders, but it is from what I've observed just as important as in Indonesia. So that wasn't very shocking to me, and the way of communication is also kind of the way I communicate at home or with some of my Asian friends. So I didn't really experience any culture shock. So yeah.
Okay, I see. Uh, did you call your peer leader or your guru with bapak or kakak? That's
Uh,
how we show respect, right?
yeah, yeah.
Did you call them with certain um
Yeah, my teachers, I always called Papa or Ibu. My peer leader, it took me a bit to realize I should not call him Pak. I should call him Kak because he was only, I think, he's only like a couple years older than me. So he's not Papa, he's Kakak. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, so you learn different way how to call
yeah,
someone in bahasa ya.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. How about Willa? Do you feel any culture shock? Ada culture shock?
I think that because it was online, a lot of culture shock comes from like interacting with people in person and seeing like their reactions and their expressions. And so online, that's a little bit harder to understand or to see. But I think that I didn't experience any culture shocks. Oh, there were some things different than America. Like Nick said, the teachers were accommodating and very like understanding and patient with us, which in America teachers usually take a lot less time to like talk to the students and interact with them and have patience with them.
Mm.
So yeah, and I think that I don't know, patience and uh respect. It's hard to say respect, but like listening when people speak is very different from my family. And so
Okay.
was everyone that I spoke to was considerate of everyone else. And I think that that was not surprising, but different.
Okay. So it's not really a shock, but you can actually point the difference, right,
Yeah,
between your family and also people in Indonesia that you interact with. Seperti itu ya, Willa ya.
yeah.
Oke. Jadi ternyata tidak terlalu, terasa sebenarnya culture shock, tapi mereka tetap bisa melihat perbedaan, antara Amerika dan Indonesia secara virtual seperti itu. Nah, saya sekarang ingin mendengar nih cerita Richard, pertama kali, the first time you came to Indonesia, apa sih yang menjadi culture shock kamu pertama kali?
Um, so I think that a big part of it was what Nicholas and Willa touched on, the different ways that you communicate with people. So before I went, I tried to memorize all of the different titles that you would use with different people. And and then I would learn that, for some cultures they would have um, different titles they would use. For people who are Sundanese, you would have slightly different titles than for someone who's Javanese. And so navigating this kind of way of speaking to people and always trying to figure out, like, how should I speak to this person who I'm meeting out on the street was somewhat difficult. And I think that another thing that was kind of a culture shock was just trying to adjust the politeness that I use. And I experienced this a little bit with some other languages that I had learned before. But one of the things that I had trouble with was the imbuhan, the prefixes and suffixes.
Okay.
And like, I would have to figure out the correct prefixes and suffixes as I was speaking. But then I learned that when you're speaking to a lot of different people, you don't actually use those prefixes and suffixes. So I had to kind of change the way that I was speaking, um, to any given person, and it was just it was very exhausting in the first few days trying to speak to people in the correct way.
Okay, so apa yang kamu pelajari, what do you learn and prepared, it's ternyata very different in real life. Is that what you're saying, Richard?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay, that's very interesting. And Richard also have an experience living with host family, right? Dengan keluarga angkat. Can you tell us more about your host family dengan keluarga angkat?
Um, my host family was incredibly kind, and they wanted me to be able to try everything in the city. Um, so they would always be offering me different things, and I suppose that another part of culture shock was that sometimes, um, I think that I was expressing my actual wishes, and they thought that I was just being polite. If I would say that I was not hungry anymore, sometimes that was because I'd actually eaten so much that I just couldn't eat anymore, but they thought that I was just trying to be polite. And another thing is that they were always concerned that food would be too spicy for me, and I can stand more spiciness than most Americans can, but they would always warn me, uh, 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 ini uh, maaf, saya lupa spicy dalam bahasa Indonesia.
Oh, pedas, pedas.
Pedas, pedas. Um, ini pedas sekali. So after a while, I would kind of ignore this. But then one time there was a little pepper, cabe kecil, and my host mother, she warned me, ini pedas sekali, and so I kind of, I nodded, but I thought, oh, it's probably not that spicy, and then I ate it and I started crying, but I but I knew that if they saw that I thought it was too spicy, that they wouldn't let me have anything that was spicy after that. So I
Oh,
just had to pretend that that I was fine with it.
oh, oh wow.
But
Okay, so because of that, so they start to apa namanya protect you from being too spicy. Yeah.
yeah, but
Okay. Wow.
my host family was just always very they were just always trying to find things for me to see in Jakarta, and they wanted to make sure that I could see all the different kind of styles of batik,
Mm,
and that I could just kind of go all the different places in the city that are incredibly important. So I'm very thankful for that.
okay. Yeah, this is also my question actually. Untuk Richard, apa namanya? Richard punya experience to commute daily especially di Jakarta gitu. How do you
Yeah.
find commuting daily different between your home and Indonesia?
Ah, uh, saya suka sekali transportasi umum di Jakarta, di kota uh, dan negeri bagian saya, Tulsa dan Oklahoma. Tidak ada banyak transportasi umum. Jadi, eee, itu, pengalaman baru, eee, naik transportasi umum. Jadi itu lebih, eee, saya pikir, uh, it's more peaceful, and I think that it's much more efficient than driving everywhere as I usually do around here. But
Oh, do you,
yeah,
do you get frustrated with the traffic here in Jakarta?
ya ada banyak macet-macet.
Aduh, ya macet-macet ya. Oke, ya maybe uh, apa namanya? Willa and Nicholas can get more prepared ketika when you come to Indonesia with the traffic, especially in Jakarta. Seperti itu. Okay, so back to Willa and Nicholas about your experience learning bahasa and budaya Indonesia online. Uh, I listened that you try batik as well, and also you actually have sessions with host family as well, and also you communicate with your peer leader. What what's the most uh, interesting, or what's your most favorite activities that you've been taking with Nisli this year? Boleh siapa, Willa atau Nicholas?
My favorite activity was the batik.
Oh, batik. Okay, why?
Yeah.
Kenapa?
I like saya suka seni dan um in Russian and Ukrainian culture, there's a style of art where you do batik kind of, but on eggs. And I was excited to try it on fabric, and it's so fun. And it took so long to do a very simple design that I just think it's amazing how people have the patience to create like true art out of it. And I think it was my favorite activity, although cooking mi goreng is also up there.
Okay. By the way, speaking about batik, is that batik that you wear?
Um, saya tidak tahu.
Okay.
Baju ibu saya.
Baju ibu kamu. Okay, it looks like batik because it has pattern. But yeah, so you love batik ya, William, because you like art karena kamu suka seni. That's great. How about Nicholas? What's your favorite
Uh,
activity?
my favorite activity was memasak, especially the beef rendang. Um, the process is kind of like um, another dish my mom makes called adobo, but it's just like spicy version of that. Yeah, and less sauce because the beef rendang is supposed to be super dry. It's a dry curry, yeah. So memasak was very fun because um, cooking is something I had already been like wanting to take up as a hobby, and the pandemic allowed me to do that. And then Indonesian led me to cook like fun and new dishes, and I don't really mind the intensity of the labor that is required for beef rendang, even though it took like 6 hours to cook. Most of that is just stirring it in the pan. Um, so not only was like I making it, what not only was I engaging in something new that I like, but also it tasted really good.
Wow,
Uh,
it's a success for you, yeah, Nicholas,
yeah,
to
yeah.
cook. Okay, wow. Anything else you want to
Um,
share?
I guess I also like discussing with my peer leader a lot because um, I felt because he was closer to my age, a bit easier to communicate, even though I was still like he is still like a bit older than me, so he's my kakak. Um, discussing learning Bahasa Indonesia instead of just being taught it helped me reinforce the knowledge in my mind a lot more. And in addition, he's teaching me things that I really like to learn about, such as history. Since recently, he is helping me learn colonialism in Indonesia from Belanda, Japan, Spanyol, Portugal,
Ya.
and Greece. Yeah,
Oke, jadi kamu banyak belajar tentang sejarah Indonesia ya, history of
yeah,
Indonesia dari your peer
sejarah.
leader.
Yeah,
Wow, oke. Nah, there is I will start to ask question from the audience because there is a related questions about this. This is for Nicholas. Dari Danu. Oh, Danu is the peer tutor, peer leader for peer tutor from NSLI-Y, one of the peer tutor. Dia bertanya, how was the experience of learning bahasa Indonesia and Filipina impacted your view in your Austronesian ancestry?
how it impacted what again?
Your
Tolong ulangan.
view in your Austronesian ancestry because you have an ancestry from Austronesia, right?
It's like Austronesia is like the Malay languages and also the Pacific Island languages. Yeah, so Austronesian languages like Indonesian and Filipino. Um, so my mother, she's Tagalog and Cebuano from the Philippines, and so learning Bahasa Filipina and Bahasa Indonesia, um, it's helped me learn a couple new words that I didn't know before, like becak in
Oh,
Indonesia,
becak,
the
yeah.
yeah, in the Philippines, it's tajak. Very similar, yeah. So probably same origin, the manual one. So it's been very interesting learning like similar foods, similar words, getting used again to a similar ish communication style. It's kind of like a bit undeniable that the Philippines is probably the most westernized of the Southeast Asian nations because it was an American colony. But learning something kind of similar has helped me reinforce and introduce new things to what I've known about my other nationality.
Okay, so it helps you to broaden up your view, yeah.
Yeah,
Not only
yeah,
the Philippines,
broaden.
but also there is Indonesia that's maybe similar to Philippines, like that, yeah. Okay, wow, okay. Well, hopefully you can also have sometimes to learn more about Southeast Asia because it's very
Yeah,
interesting, to see more uh, the countries that's similar with your ancestry, seperti itu. Nah, pertanyaan selanjutnya, it's more again about bahasa, learning bahasa. It's from Ninda dari SMA 1 Yogyakarta. Ninda bertanya, what is your biggest difficulty when learning bahasa Indonesia and also budaya Indonesia? Mungkin dari Willa dulu boleh. Willa.
I think the hardest part was memorizing. We learned a lot of words, and I'm still working on memorizing all of them. I think that I enjoy learning structure, and I think um, that that culture is just so interesting that um, it's not easy to forget, or and I really care about learning it. So I think the hardest part is just memorizing words. Our most recent lesson was cuaca, and
Okay.
I'm still studying it. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So memorize the vocabulary, ya, Willa.
Yeah.
The most difficult things. Okay. How about Nicholas?
Um, the hardest thing learning Bahasa Indonesia, I guess I have two answers. One is pronunciation. I had to, before learning Bahasa Indonesia, I was very bad at rolling my R's. Um, so when I learn a language, I try to match the accent a bit. So I wanted to learn how to roll my R's because that's how R, it's usually like R or R in Indonesia, yeah. So I wanted to get used to that because that sound is also used here in like Spanish words, which I run into a lot because I live in California. Um, but I think the hardest thing was memorizing all the vocabulary. So structure is like replicated and it's similar to American, so that was like easier to learn. But memorizing all the vocabulary and the terms of respect and the different um trying to memorize what little like verb conjugations I
Okay.
could learn in the 6 weeks that we had was a lot harder than anything else we did because it was a lot of memorization because they were trying to cram as much as they could in 6 weeks with only two
Yeah,
hours a day. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Jadi sama ya, Willa dan Nicholas,
yeah,
sulit belajar vocabulary, kosakata ya.
yeah,
Tapi tadi Nicholas juga bilang sulit juga untuk apa namanya pronunciation, mengucapkan kata R, is that right? Kata
yeah.
R. Oke, ya. Nah, I want to know from Richard, how about you? Eh, apa yang sulit belajar bahasa Indonesia?
Uh, untuk saya, hal yang paling sulit adalah um, imbuhan dan 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 kosakata, um, karena saya tidak tahu bahasa yang lain um, uh, dari Australasia. Jadi the different bases of the words were kind of completely new for me. So I didn't associate like the kind of root words with anything else. So at the beginning, it was kind of hard for me to tell when there was a word that had imbuhan around it, or if it was just a word by itself, because I just didn't recognize those at first.
Okay, so yeah, it's basically the same ya, sama semua tentang kosakata, vocabulary. But for Richard, it's also prefix and suffix ya, imbuhan. That's yeah, it's also hard ya untuk orang Amerika untuk belajar imbuhan. That's okay.
Betul.
Nah, mungkin ke Richard lagi, karena Richard you come to Jakarta and you live in Jakarta untuk 6 minggu. Did you get a chance to other places in Indonesia during your stay?
Ya, um, se- eh, selama tinggal di Jakarta, uh, keluarga angkat saya pergi ke Jogja dan kami jelajahi Borobudur dan uh, tempat yang lain di Jogja. Um, jadi ada um, ada pengalaman berbeda di Jakarta dan di Jogja.
Oke, apa pengalaman berbeda yang kamu ingat?
Um, uh, Contoh di Jakarta
Hmm,
itu lebih ramai dan lebih besar. Jadi ada lebih banyak orang-orang di jalanan dan ada banyak a- ada banyak mobil. Tapi di Jogja karena itu lebih kecil, uh, ada lebih banyak hutan dan tempat yang uh, open and natural. There's quite a bit more kind of like open and natural space, which is quite different from uh, uh, Jakarta.
Oke.
Dan selain itu, kami pergi ke Pulau Tidung dan ke 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 uh, kehidupan di sana berbeda dari Jakarta
Oke.
juga.
By the way, Pulau Tidung is still in Jakarta loh.
Iya, tapi tidak di pulau besar.
Ya, tidak di main island. Oh ya, kehidupan apa yang berbeda di Tidung dan di Jakarta?
Uh, Pulaunya kecil sekali, jadi kebanyakan orang-orang bersepeda dan saya tidak bisa bersepeda di Jakarta di pulau besar karena ada terbanyak orang-orang dan mobil, tapi di Pulau Tidung ada jalanan kecil dan tidak ada banyak orang-orang. Jadi
Oke. Oke. Do you like it better in, like Pulau Tidung, the quietest, quiet place, atau in Jakarta, Richard?
um, saya suka kesepian, tapi saya pikir itu ada lebih banyak uh, uh, ada lebih banyak kegiatan di Jakarta dan untuk saya karena saya belum pernah ke Indonesia sebelum pergi bersama NSLI-Y, ada lebih banyak kegiatan unik untuk Indonesia di Jakarta di Pulau Besar.
Oke, oke, iya, iya, iya. Oke. Nah, speaking of visiting Indonesia, I'm going back to Willa dan Nicholas. You might heard a lot of things from peer leader, from guru Bahasa Indonesia, and from Richard as well about Indonesia. I want to know when you come to Indonesia later in the future, uh, what um, what do you want to explore more? Apa yang kamu ingin eksplorasi lebih jauh tentang budaya Indonesia? Dari siapa nih? Nicholas atau Willa? Nicholas boleh?
Saya mau explore what's more banyak makanan, um, especially pedas, karena di Amerika tidak not much makanan spicy di Amerika ya. Also architecture ya.
Hmm, oke.
Ya, itu saja.
Okay. Architecture uh, because of the colonialism, or architecture, like or local architecture.
More like local architecture.
Okay, okay. Is there any particular cities maybe you want to visit?
I especially want to see Jakarta,
Mhm.
also Bali, because I have an auntie that used to teach. I think she used to teach English there. I think,
Oke, Jakarta dan Bali ya, Nicholas. Okay, I hope you can someday visit Jakarta and Bali and other places in Indonesia as well. Okay, how about Willa?
I'm really interested in religion too, and I really want to see Gandhi Prambanan
Hmm,
and Borobudur and other temples and religious places. Long before I learned like about NSLI, I heard of a place called the Chicken Church.
Oh
Which
yeah.
is a very small church in Indonesia, and I think it's cool. And so when I go to Indonesia, I want to see temples and religious places and ancient places, and I want to um, I want to learn more about politics in Indonesia. I've learned just a little bit, and it's interesting to like learn about how it's a democracy like America, but a different style, I guess, or form of democracy. Um, with like so many different parties, and also want to go to Pasar, then eat food from vendors, and yeah,
Okay. Wow, that's a lot of lists, but like
yeah,
hopefully it will apa namanya jadi kenyataan in the future. It will come real in your life seperti itu. Tapi interesting,
exactly.
you want to learn or explore more about religions, especially to see temples. Uh, why do you want to learn more about that?
Um, hmm. Because religion is another part of culture, and even though like many of the religions of Indonesia are global religions, it's interesting to see how they have impacted like Indonesian culture and geography and architecture, like Nick said. And it's interesting to learn about how religion is different in different places. For example, there's a very, very small Jewish population in Yogyakarta. I mean, sorry, not Surabaya. Then I think it's really interesting that there's so much religious diversity in Indonesia too.
Okay, wow. Okay, yeah, I
A
agree.
lot.
Religion is part of the culture. And by the way, a lot of temples is actually around Yogyakarta, so you might want to visit Yogyakarta. And a lot of audience here is from Yogyakarta as well. So yeah, hopefully you can, make a contact with one of the people in Yogyakarta and be friend with them.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay, okay. And the last round of questions from me before I'm reading more uh, from the audience is about the impact of the program. Actually, I want to hear from Willa and Nicholas first. Uh, how do you want to use the experiences you get from Nisli from the past 6 week to your life or to your future ahead?
I'll go first.
Oke,
Um,
silahkan Nicholas.
so I guess for me there were two very big um, takeaways I got out of this program. One is that my language learning abilities were improved a lot. Um, as I said, right now di SMA saya sedang belajar bahasa Jepang. Um, and usually that's classified as like very very difficult. So tersulit. Tapi saya pikir not as difficult as many people think. Um, but at the same time, it is very very different from English, and also a little hard just with memorization. And this program, where I've had to memorize a lot in a very short time, and also um, I guess just learn how to speak better. Well, learn how to learn languages. a lot more efficiently and be able to absorb more information. Um, for the other takeaway was that um, I'm improving my Indonesian so that I could maybe go there in the future and have another foreign language experience, foreign exchange, or depending on the program I choose to do in college, or maybe just travel on my own for pleasure. Um, I'll be able to go to Indonesia and now survive there better because I know the language better. Yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting point. Learning to learn language. Uh, what do you have any like plan in the future to master language or being an I don't know language teachers or something, Nicholas?
Um, for my profession, what I think now is like I want to do economics, or at the very least, like I want to work in something that's like international, and
I see.
the main focus or interest of for me right now is economics. So being able to speak the language of nations of like strategic, economic, and political interest to the U.S. is very helpful. Um, Teaching languages seems very interesting, but I've never thought that I wanted to be a teacher before. Yeah, but linguistics is something that I like to learn on the side. So maybe that's something I might pursue later if I decide like
Okay.
economics or international relations is not for me.
Oke,
Yeah.
jadi, Nicholas ingin, belajar ekonomi dan international, economy, jadi perlu belajar banyak bahasa ya,
Yeah.
Nicholas ya? Oke, how about Willa, bagaimana dengan Willa?
Um, what Nick said about learning how to learn languages, I think is true for me too. It's given me a lot more confidence about my ability to learn in a short period of time. And so I want to learn, I want to become much better in Indonesian, but I also want to learn other languages too. And so in that way, it's given me a lot more confidence. And I think this program has also made me more conscious of like cultural and societal differences, like the difference between like a very emotionally expressive and restrained culture and like different levels of respect and just cultural values. And I think that learning about how to learning to be aware of the differences between cultures is going to help me a lot wherever I go. And uh, yeah, also it was very interesting meeting people from the U.S. embassy, because it was interesting to hear their stories of how they became interested in foreign service,
I
and
see.
it is something I'm also interested in. So it was good to have that experience too.
Okay, so you learn the importance of learning cultures ya, Willa, dari this
Yeah.
program. Okay, and I'm going to ask Richard because Richard has come back to the US dan sekarang sudah di universitas. Do you think your learning in bahasa impact you in a certain way uh, in your life, Richard?
Iya, iya. Sesudah pulang dari Indonesia, saya masuk universitas di California, di dekat San Francisco. Dan San Francisco adalah kota lebih besar daripada Tulsa. Dan saya pikir pengalaman saya di Jakarta membantu saya mengerti bagaimana kehidupan di kota lebih besar. Dan saya pikir itu uh, I think that it helped me a lot kind of adjust to living in a city, in a much bigger city than I would have been if I had not spent time in Jakarta.
Oke, so you gain life skills as well ya berarti.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, okay. So learning language is important, and knowing the importance of culture also important. And Richard also gained life skills from the program. Hopefully, Nicholas and Willa also have experience to stay a little bit more in Indonesia and learn and gain more also from the perspective and also life skills. Okay. One more question from Richard. This is something that I've kept, and I want to know this past year, how do you maintain your Bahasa Indonesia, Richard?
Ah. um, uh, saya masih berkomunikasi dengan keluarga angkat saya, tapi saat ini saya kurang latihan bahasa Indonesia. Um, tapi selama tinggal di Indonesia, saya I downloaded aplikasi berita Indonesia um, uh, dalam bahasa Indonesia dan dalam bahasa Inggris. Jadi kadang-kadang saya kadang-kadang saya membaca artikel berita dalam bahasa Indonesia untuk belajar situasi di Indonesia dan latihan uh, dan latihan bacaan bahasa Indonesia.
Oke, jadi kamu banyak membaca ya, membaca
Ya.
artikel. Apakah kamu juga bertemu dengan orang Indonesia di San Francisco seperti itu?
Ya, di San Francisco ada banyak orang Indonesia dan saya sudah bertemu dengan banyak orang di universitas saya yang orang Indonesia. Tapi
Oke.
ya.
Oke, jadi kamu belajar reading tadi, membaca dari artikel dan juga komunikasi bicara dengan orang Indonesia dan juga dengan host family ya tadi kamu bilang ya. Kamu
Betul.
masih maintain. Wow, okay. That's great. Okay. It's time for the questions from the audience. There is some questions actually. Okay. Okay, there is one question this is also from peer leader NSLI-Y, Ferdi. Name is Ferdi. Maybe this is for three of you. Apa kesan pertama atau first impression about Indonesia, and apakah kamu punya stereotype about Indonesia before you learn bahasa Indonesia or budaya Indonesia? Siapa yang mau jawab duluan? Oke, Willa.
Maaf. My first impression of Indonesia was that I guess I should begin with the stereotype because linear. So I actually knew very, very, very little about Indonesia before I started doing research for this program. This is embarrassing. All I knew was that there it was a lot of islands somewhere in Asia, and so I guess I had no stereotype because I didn't know anything And so I think my first impression as I started doing research how how big Indonesia is. Um, it's really, really big and with so many different islands and different languages and different like ethnic groups. It's like yeah, that was my first impression. And then second, like very like culturally and environmentally rich, like filled with so many different cultures and um also like a beautiful natural environment. So that was my first impression.
Yeah, it's about the diversity, Willa.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, how about Nicholas? Do you also have the same impression or more different? Oh, maybe you need to unmute your.
Maaf untuk mute. So going in learn about Indonesia, I knew a lot more than Will. Um, kind of based on intuition, I knew that the country was very diverse because of all the islands and mountains and jungles and separation. I also knew a bit of the history of that colonization and also the heritage and ancestry of the people. Because like Filipinos and Malays were all Malay Austronesian peoples. But also I guess stereotypes I knew. Um, I remember my mother and I, even before like I knew about NSLI-Y, we would watch videos where they're like comparing Filipino to other languages, and one of them was Indonesian. And once I learned about NSLI-Y and chose Indonesian, she said, "Oh, Nick, you're going to die. You can't roll your R's." But every R in the language is like rolled. um, but I mean, look where I am now. I can like that a lot easier than before. So very good, yeah. Another thing was also I was kind of scared that it was going to be super like rigid and formal. That was the stereotype I knew. Um, but it seems well formality and um, respect of seniority um, is very important. It is a lot. Um, it's a lot more easier than I thought um, to be able to communicate in to Indonesian people and also in Bahasa Indonesia. So those are like the stereotypes that I went in with to learn Bahasa Indonesia dan budaya Indonesia. Yeah.
Wow. And by the way, the R is great, Nicholas. You made it.
Terima
You
kasih.
nailed it.
Yeah.
Okay, and maybe the last one from Richard. How was your first impression or your stereotype first about
Um,
stereotype about Indonesia?
so I think that one of the main stereotypes that I'd heard was similar to what Nicholas said about people being very formal and maybe a little bit rigid. But on arriving in Indonesia, I found that it was kind of the opposite. People were very friendly, but it's not that they were so much like rigid. It was just more that everyone was like very polite, but also just very interested in what other people like in what they had to say and also what their experiences were. And another stereotype that I had heard was that Indonesians love to take pictures with bules. Um, so with anyone who doesn't seem Indonesian, and kind of funnily enough, uh, I I found that this was true, but I also found that people didn't think that I was a bule. So a lot of times people would like I would be walking with my friends who were very clearly bule, and then they would want to take a picture with them, but not necessarily with me. So
So they thought you were Indonesians?
I mean, as long as I didn't speak, I think a lot of
Okay.
people thought that I was Indonesian.
Okay, that is so interesting. Okay, yeah, a lot of orang Indonesia suka foto-foto ya dengan dengan bule. Okay. Wow,
Betul.
that's a very interesting conversation with you guys. Thank you so much. Hopefully, as you said, you gain so many things from the program, and you can maintain your bahasa, and you can enhance your knowledge and also your skills in bahasa and learning cultures. Okay, as a closing, I have a video about the recap from the NSLI-Y 2020 program that has come to an end today. So I will teman-teman bisa melihat video program NSLI-Y 2020 di tahun ini. Silakan enjoy.
Selamat pagi, apa kabar?
Baik, dan Anda?
Baik.
Saya makan siang dan makan malam jam 4.
Di foto ini, dia melakukan apa?
Dia memasak.
Selamat pagi dan selamat malam semua.
Nama saya Emily, kerja sebagai asisten atase kebudayaan.
Saya kerja di bagian budaya di Kedutaan Amerika Serikat di Jakarta.
Halo Sena, apa kabar? Halo Mama Sena.
Halo Mbak Reni, apa kabar?
Kak Reni.
Saya mau belajar bahasa Indonesia karena saya suka belajar tentang bahasa dan orang.
Wow, itu tadi recap program NSLI-Y 2020 dan tidak terasa 6 minggu sudah berlalu untuk Willa dan juga untuk Nicholas dan juga teman-teman NSLI-Y 2020 lainnya untuk belajar bahasa Indonesia. Dari pembicaraan tadi kita ngobrol itu banyak ya ternyata belajar bahasa dan budaya Indonesia virtual dan juga secara langsung seperti Richard itu sama-sama punya keunggulannya masing-masing dan mereka sama-sama punya learning points yang sama tentang tadi learning language, the importance of culture dan juga ternyata belajar tentang life skills kayak gitu. Nah, semoga malam ini teman-teman bisa dapat inspirasi, bisa dapat semangat juga dan belajar juga tentang perbedaan budaya dan bahasa Indonesia dan juga Amerika Serikat. Terima kasih banyak Willa, Richard, dan juga Nicholas untuk conversation hari ini. Senang sekali. Semoga nanti bisa beneran ke Indonesia ya Willa dan Nicholas ya. Dan Richard juga bisa kembali lagi ke Indonesia. Oke, itu aja dari saya, Sena, pamit undur diri. Saya kembalikan ke James.
Thank you so much to our moderators and speakers for the informative session, and to all our fans, NSLI-Y fans out there. Early in the event, we asked our audience, true or false, Bahasa Indonesia has been sent into space. And the correct answer to that is true. Bahasa Indonesia is among the 55 languages aboard the Voyager satellite launched by NASA. On the satellite, there is a golden disk that consists of data about the sounds and languages of Earth, and Bahasa Indonesia is one of them. Thank you to everyone who has participated. Don't forget to tune in next time to get a chance for get a shout out from us. With the winner for the QOTD today is Arsenio Sodira from Instagram. Now you may be wondering, how can I develop an awesome idea for a place like this? Don't worry, all you need to do is visit our website at www.atamerica.or.id, select create a program and click collaborate with us. All event proposals coming to us will be reviewed and your event might be featured here soon. That wraps this episode. It's been fun, everyone, but we have to say goodbye for now. Follow our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for all our weekly event updates, fun contents, and so much more. Thanks for joining. Again, my name is James, and see you next time on the next Ed America TV event. Bye.